this is a bit controversial, but let me go to that area, because if I don't go to that area, many people will not be happy. There's this very controversial issue of national team bonuses. My very good friend sitting ahead of me here will testify to it. Obi Amwa there will also do, and I also will do. What is the view about this whole structure of national team bonuses, the philosophy of national team bonuses? Is it necessary? Is it sustainable? What should we do so we can have a very motivating national team bonus for sportsmen, all sportsmen, not only footballers?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the issue of bonuses is something that is worrying, the honorable member just said. Given the opportunity by this August House to engage the stakeholders, GFA, the National Sports Authority, Parliament, and even Ministry of Finance, to get, and even Attorney General Department, to get a comprehensive bonuses structure that will leave time, you understand? So that once we have it, it's not a year that when we have tournaments that will then be coming to discuss. It will be known to all sportsmen and women in this country, so that they will not put ahead bonuses ahead of our country, like we have seen in the past. Thank you.
My last one has to do with human capacity. Mr. Chairman, you agree with me that when some of us were very young, our interest in sports was actually whipped up by few committed teachers who are called PE masters. Today, this very important human resource base isn't, or is vanished. And as such, nurturing of talents at the basic level is. What are you going to do to make sure we get these wonderful trainers, physical instructors, physical educationists, and the rest back into the system, so that interest of sports in our younger generation will be hooked up right from the infancy? The second one has to do with, you talk about development. I'm talking about human resource development. Should our youth development centers be an extension of our technical and vocational schools, or places where the moral value of this country will be imparted into the youth for development?
Because he asked two in one question, I've missed the first question. If you can retake your question.
The first one has to do with the physical education and sports side.
Thank you.
And then the second one has to do with moral value development of the youth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I know of the Universe, the object of the establishment of the Universe Sports College was to train technical men and women for our sports activities. And that is why government have taken the steps to revive the Universe Sports College. And also, given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Education and Ghana Education Service to ensure that every school have a PE teacher. Because, like he said, I had opportunity when I was in secondary school. I had opportunity when even teacher training school in Bagaba teacher training camp, and my PE teacher was very, very active. He's called Mr. Tia, and I know he'll be proud of me sitting here today. And so, know the importance of a PE teacher helping to develop talent at a basic level. If the vision of myself and government going forward is to make sure we revive the inter-school festivals, and there is no PE teachers, people who would train these talents, then it's a big problem. And that is why, going forward, like I said in the answer, after the African Games, we are going to use those facilities to establish the University for Sports Development. And this will be a platform where we can train more technical people, coaches, referees, so that they will meet international standard and also be able to harness talent, our national team, and also the teams that we have in our league. Thank you so much. The second part of morals, where the youth resource centers are built. Yes, Mr. Chairman, given the opportunity, I will engage of these youth resource centers are not being managed by the ministers, you know. Some of them by Corvet, others by Ministry of Education, and also some at the Ministry of National Youth Authority. So together, we'll do stakeholders collaboration to see how we instill morals and discipline among the youth of this country.
Yeah, thank you very much. Haven't been there before. It will be hard to be asking you that much, but my questions really are pointers, so just take note. Now, on the issue of national teams, you know very well that the national teams are really not a property of the Ministry of Youth and Sports. The national teams, by GFA and FIFA regulations, are yes, and you also have the Sports Authority. So really, the ministry is not directly responsible for these teams. But the key problem with sports is financing. Sports is financing. The finance ministry will not give you money. They give you grudgingly. Are you thinking about the option of getting the GFA and National Sports Authority to consider auctioning the support for these teams to given companies, big companies, so that they fund the development of these teams, and then they will buy finance minister because that expense will be taxable. That company can deduct that as an expenditure, either corporate social responsibility or as part of branding expenditure, because if the teams do well at the international level, then some good brands that the company used to brand itself. So in terms of innovative financing, will you be willing to have this discussion with the GFA and the Sports Authority?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I'll consider it as a very innovative idea that my senior brother has mentioned, because like I said in the earlier answer, financing is one of the biggest challenges, like he has said, in sports. So if there are suggestions like that, I will take it and look into it, given the opportunity. And I will engage the Ministry of, because companies are not sponsoring because there are no incentives. So if I will engage the Ministry of Finance to see how we can get incentive for companies sponsoring our national teams, so that we can get more companies to do so and improve on the talent, and also we can get more trophy. Like, I know, for example, when President Kufuor was in government, he got Anglo Gold to support the national team, and the whole agenda was to make sure that we qualify for the World Cup. And because it started earlier, and they were giving support and they were training, building capacity, we were able to go through and qualify for the World Cup. And when His Excellency, may his soul rest in peace, Professor Atames also came, he was able to get GMPC to support our national teams. And because of the preparation that we put into, again, we're able to qualify for the 2010 World Cup. So if we are able to get sponsorship for our national team, I believe strongly that we'll do well and we can even improve our ranking in FIFA. Thank you so much.
Chairman, if I can just do a little follow-up. I note that you reference to his memory, late Professor Mills. As I understand those days working with him, his concept of financing sports, given his rich background in sports, was for corporate social responsibility. You've mentioned just GMPC. Professor Mills' thinking at the time was that let's have a corporate social responsibility bill which allows corporate entities to make a contribution to that fund you mentioned to support sports. You want to assure us that you have this initiative and give meaning to it. Thank you, Chair. And then, just ending, I disagree with you and Neil Ante on bonuses. And I was just sharing with Chairman, I have a football club, Steadfast United. Yesterday, my team played with Kintampo United 4-1. As soon as the results came, my first text message was bonuses. Bonuses. So don't dismiss it. If you don't give it to them, don't expect better performance from them at the next opportunity. But can you respond to GMPC, Corporate Social Responsibility, Sports Fund? What will you do as Minister to Chair?
Thank you so much. Yes, I will go with that direction. Corporate social responsibility, companies, multinational, using their corporate social responsibilities to support sports development in Ghana. So, but like for Boku Central also mentioned, these companies will also be able to do so when there is incentives for them. So that's why I said, given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Finance and even make a case in Cabinet, so that Cabinet can take a decision and get incentive packages for corporate Ghana that is willing to support our national teams. And on the issue of bonus, the response wasn't, we are not going to pay bonuses, but it was to have a structure in place, a proper structure that it is known to everyone. So that when there is known to everyone, it's not when you are playing, there's a tournament, then we are now going to be discussing bonuses. It doesn't give the team focus. But once they know that this is what they are entitled to, and also they are paid, they will be committed and focused and representing us in tournaments that we are assigned. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just some time, Mr. Chairman. The proposal I asked about, you don't need any change in the existing law. You don't need anything. All you need is a policy change by the GFA to agree to auction out the teams, various national teams, and even the different sports, every single one of them, so that the highest bidder will be any company that puts in a bid and says, I will be able to hire a coach of this standard for them, I will maintain this stadium over here for them, I will sponsor them to participate in XY number of this, and in exchange, like you said, the incentive is that if they do well, then the brand becomes yours to use for advertising. And that's an expense that can be deducted by the company as part of its expenses before the imposition, the determination of its taxable income. I mean, that's my view of that, but it's up to GFA and then Sports Authority with your direction. Now, my second question really has to do with popular sports and the relationship between popular sports, land use and spatial planning, and generally the planning of the city, and the responsibility of local government authorities to provide space for sports activity. So to what extent will you be focusing on imposing on local government authorities the responsibility to ensure planning in such a way that space is made available for sporting activities, and that they develop those spaces and they maintain those spaces?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, if we have to go back to the basics to develop our youth in sports, then they should have facilities at the basic level in the communities or the district level so that they will be able to use them to develop their talent. So given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Local Government and also Ministry of Education, because sometimes even in the schools, they can have those facilities there.
Let me just help you. This House passed the law, Land Use and Spatial Planning Law. And during the debate, if you recall, we had an issue with how public spaces reserved for sport and recreational activity are being encroached upon. So we structured the law in such a way that only this House will approve, rezoning of public spaces by even the local government authorities. And the whole objective was to preserve those public spaces so that it can be developed for sports and etc. So that's where one of the things you should be paying attention to, and paying attention to the planning and then getting assemblies to fund the infrastructure at that level.
Well, very well noted, Mr. Chairman. So given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Local Government and look at the law to ensure that places given for sports facilities are not encroached on. Thank you.
Yeah. My team was suspended.
I've given it to Hassan already. I thought we have had enough.
No, just clarifying.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Yusif, I congratulate you.
Thank you so much.
First of all, I have a message for you from my mother. She insists I should thank you for the kind gesture that you extended to her some time ago. He picked her from the airport. Driver delayed. He didn't know her. He picked her and took her all the way home. So she insists that I should thank you for her publicly.
Thank you so much
for that kind gesture. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, I've done my duty to my Mr. Chairman, Honorable Nominee, are you aware if government gives any financial support to the Ghana Premier League, both male and female? And if yes, what's the state of payment?
Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm aware. Government, as part of measures to support companies and industries, also considered the sports industry. And our premier, currently the teams in the Premier League has been given 50,000 Ghana cedis each to support them, because currently when they are playing, the capacity, because of the COVID, the current situation, they are not getting spectators to come in. So that was government support to them. But also, most importantly, is the YEA agreement that National Sports Authority and the YEA did to support, and more than 1,000 sportsmen and women are benefiting from this initiative. And they get allowances or stipends, 500 Ghana cedis every month. And this was an MOU between the National Sports Authority just to develop our sportsmen and women in these difficult times.
Very well. Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable Nominee. You spoke earlier about the state of our stadia and sports facilities and how realistic rates are not being paid, and maybe how the NSA is not also living up to expectation. In that regard, I want to, if you haven't been briefed, draw your attention to what possibly could also be the reason why the NSA is unable to meet some of this very necessary expenditure to maintain our stadia. It has to do with wastage. I have with me here a letter dated 22nd November 2018 That was to go through the tender processes to procure 2 Toyota Hilux 4-wheel drive double cabin pickups. That was done in 2018, but by 2020, under the watch of the NSA boss, the vehicle had either been reported stolen under very bizarre circumstances. And the word around the NSA is that that vehicle may not have been stolen after all, but there is no investigation that has been conducted into this. Again, there are reports of, as we all know, per the procurement requirement, how heads of institutions should not split contracts so that they can meet thresholds to award those contracts. There are examples, and I can give those documents where such contracts, like for dustbin purchases, are split in that manner. What are you going to do about, one, this pickup, and also these procurement breaches that result in wastage at the NSA once you are approved?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, this is news to me. Given the opportunity, this August House, I will do a follow-up on it to ensure that the necessary investigation is done to ensure that we get the vehicle. Because I don't know the status now. I don't know whether it was reported to the police, whether it was insured, or insurance to pay. So because the standard should have insured. If it is stolen, then you just have to report it. And if it's comprehensive, then you'll be able to get the vehicle back. So I will look into it, given the opportunity. On the issue of the procurement, the PPA, that the Public Procurement Authority, they normally do periodic training for institutions. And I remember when I was at National Service, we had the opportunity every year inviting them to come and give us a periodic event training so that we'll be updated by, and they also do audits per the law as well. So given the opportunity, the agencies under me, I will ensure that they comply fully with the Procurement Act. They will comply fully with the Procurement Act. And that's the assurance I will give to this committee, August House. Thank you.
All right. That's why, even though I am happy for you for this nomination, I wish this was an opportunity with the previous minister, the minister who was there. That is where perhaps some of these issues would have been well interrogated. But, Honorable nominee, one thing that I know you are going to have to deal with also at the ministry has to do with visa scandals. Visa scandals. We know, for example, of the Australian visa scandal. An investigation was set up and conducted into it. As we speak, we do not know what the outcome of that investigation is. There is another stinking racketeering deal brewing in relation to the Para-Olympic Games, where we are told about 100 plus people, names of people were sent to the UK High Commission, and it is turning out that it is a list full of friends and relatives who are not really disabled and should not be part of this list. We also recall the preface at National Authority. At the time you were a member of the board, it involved about 500 youth that were supposed to be taking part in street light repairs that was going to cost about 4.5 million Ghana cedis. That report too were promise of an investigation into it. The executive officers, the officers who were in charge at the time were all asked to proceed on leave. So at least on this too, Australian visa and preface, can you give us your word that you will see to it that these reports are public, if for nothing at all, to guide your work at the ministry and for people to also be informed about what might have happened at these two places.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the issue of visa is very worrying. And it's not good image for our country, especially what's happened in Australia. So given the opportunity, I know the GFA, the GOC, that's the Ghana Olympic Committee, is normally in charge, and it has to do with accreditation. I know the processes, per the briefing I got, the processes leading to the Australia scandal is that they normally have a list called a long list and a short list. The long list normally will be prepared first for the host federation or the organizing country, for the organizers to be able to give accreditation for athletes to be able to participate in the tournament. In the Australian case, instead of waiting for the short list or the final list to be submitted, they issued accreditation to most of these, all the names on the long list. So given the opportunity, I will engage the GOC and the National Sports Authority and ensure that, and even the host nation embassy in Ghana, so that to ensure that only vetted athletes or men and women are issued with visas, so that we don't find ourselves damaging our image in direction. On the issue of the National Youth Authority, the street light training, which resulted in getting the management moved. Yes, I was a member of the board. The matter was between the National Youth Authority and local government ministry, because it was a collaboration to ensure that every constituency in Ghana or every district in Ghana, we have technicians trained to fix street lights. The matter came to the board, and the board, because per their structure, they will normally bring their program of activities to the board for the board to approve. But as the procurement process, the board is involved. So I know investigation is still ongoing. I don't want to give much information, but given the opportunity, I will follow it up to ensure that it doesn't occur again.
So will you be willing to publish the investigation report on the Australian visa scandal, for example?
I will follow through to see the agencies doing this investigation. If they are concluded, maybe there is the current, I don't know the status of the investigation. So if yes, the investigation is concluded, yes, it's public interest matter, and the report should be made public. That's what I think.
Mr. Chairman, Honourable Nominee, I'm sure you are well aware of Tamale's contribution to football. The stars that have been produced from Tamale, either for the national team, the Black Stars, or the Starlets and the Satellites. Do you think the area deserves an AstroTurf, and will you consider giving one to somewhere around Camberley or somewhere around Watke?
Camberley, is that your choice?
It's a town in Tamale, Mr. Chairman. Yes, it's in my constituency.
Well, I'm also interested in Camberley. That's why.
I'm just asking if you think that those areas will deserve one, or the Banyamli area, any of those areas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, I know the contribution of the people of Tamale to football, and like I said, we'll go back to the basics where every community will be having inter-school festivals and also community festivals, sports festivals. And if we don't have facilities, how do we do these festivals? So once resources are available, if I have the opportunity, every district and every constituency should get an AstroTurf or a sporting facility. So depending upon the resources, ability, Tamale, I can assure you that Tamale, Kanville area will be given one.
I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, then I will do it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I would want to remind the honorable nominee that he is going to the Ministry for Youth and Sports, not the Ministry for Football, which has really dominated the sector. And I would plead that you focus attention on youth development in particular. One provision in the NDC manifesto I was fascinated about was that because of this tendency to focus on football, we proposed to delineate and have a separate ministry for youth. But the current president is continuing with this tradition of keeping the ministry combined as youth and sports. But please don't forget that it is youth and sports, and not only sports, and for that matter, football in particular. So in that spirit, my first question relates to a report which shocked the nation. It was released only a few days ago on the 19th of February. A report by the Consultative Committee to Combat Drug Menace in Schools, commissioned by His Excellency the President. A 21-page report. It was led by Mr. Bright Appiah, the Executive Director of Child Rights International. And I note that going through the report and the membership, you had Reverend Frank Latte from the Ministry of Youth and Sports, who was a member of the consultative committee that conducted this research. The findings are really troubling. You have as many as 36.4% of students in junior and senior high schools. That's very young level, engage in substance abuse. The boys, the figure is at 54.1%, more than half of boys in our public basic schools. A very, very heart-wrenching report. I also have another study conducted by Global Initiative under the title Domestic Drug Consumption in Ghana, an underreported phenomenon, by Lucia Bear. And I'll share this report with you, a 72-page report. And the findings are similar to what this consultative committee found. So the issue of substance abuse, drug abuse, alcohol abuse is a major, major issue amongst the youth now. I have seen FDA issue statements warning the public. The youth are chasing substances like, they say, ecstasy pill, happy pill, love pill, tramadol. Nanaba Namwa did a brilliant job on that. Codeine, Berlin, all kinds of weird substances. Has this report come to your attention? And what are you going to do to help us fight this public health crisis, this drug menace, which is really destroying our youth and the future of this country?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the report it hasn't come to my attention, but I know I've heard it in the public that the use of these drugs is damaging the youth of this country. And even at National Youth Authority, I remember as part of the program was to launch a campaign against and also to educate the youth of this country, the dangers of using these drugs. So given the opportunity, I will ensure that we get the National Youth Authority to go ahead and do more of campaigns. And also, let me use this platform to also urge parents. Parents also have a serious responsibility in this direction, or how bring up our children. And also, as you know, coming from the National Service, it's a youth agency. And I'm not going to the ministry to just focus on sport or sports, leaving the youth development, because there is deficiency, skill development, skill deficiency in this country. In the earlier answer, I said, covered skill gap analysis of the youth of this country. And it is very revealing to see how even the construction sector, you agree with me that we get foreigners to come and do some work that our youth should be doing. So the good news is that there is a project that's called about rolling out the Job and Skill Project, the Ghana Job and Skill Project. The Ghana Job and Skill Project is to improve on the skill development of the youth of this country. And I know if this project becomes success, it will also help taking this youth from using, because some of these youth have nothing doing. If you are well engaged, you are focused, because it's an opportunity to also train them, it's a platform to train them about the dangers of using such drugs. And also, Ghana Education Service, the Ministry of Education, also launched a campaign on this, because most of these children spend more time in schools. You understand? They spend more time in school. So as part of our effort to get the youth not to be using this drug, I think if we can get, even in our curriculum, the basic school, right away from the primary school, for our children to know the dangers of using such drugs. So given the opportunity, I will engage the Ministry of Education. Luckily for me, it's just a stone thrown between my ministry. I can just walk there and see how best we can collaborate together to improve on or reduce the usage. Thank you.
So as a way of following on that, what should we expect to be your legacy? God willing, you are command, you are Minister for Youth and Sports. What will be your legacy for the youth of our country? What do you want the youth to remember you for?
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I want to be remembered as a minister who has developed the skill, because we talk about unemployment because our people are not employed because they don't have the needed skills. You will be surprised even at National Service who graduate, when we introduce this, our digitalization agenda to make sure that our processes in dealing with National Service becomes paperless, can just use their phone to sit in any community, be able to apply, get their certificate, request for their certificate. National Service personnel will go to internet cafe to ask the cafe owner to do the application for them. So those skills, neutral digital skills, and other things are things that we have to develop. So I want to be remembered as a minister who have built the capacity, human capital development. I want to be remembered for that. Aside that, we are also hosting the African Games in 2023. That's a major event for us as a country. So I want to be remembered as a minister who has hosted the best African Games in Africa. If that happens, thank you.
I see you want to wear the big shoes of the Honorable Yamwa. We remember him for Cannes 2008. So we can only wish you well. My second question is from your handing over notes. I am deeply worried that you are taking over a heavily indebted ministry. If you go to pages pages 49 and 50 of your handing over notes. If you have it, you can make reference to it. Over 20 million Ghana cedis is owed to all manner of hotels from Empire to Kempinski. You owe bonuses for the national football teams. There are judgment debts in the African origin, travel and tours and others. Have you been briefed about the heavily indebted state of your ministry? And what's the strategy? How are you going to get the ministry out of this heavy debt burden?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm not aware, but per the briefing, per the preparation, when I was preparing to appear before this committee, the issue of debt, I don't know the quantum. I've not cross-checked to see that it's 20 million.
In the handy over notes is 20 million, pages 49 and 50. So you can make reference. It's over 2 million cedis.
So I'll check. I'll check to rate. I'll check to rate. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, when I get there, I will engage the officials at the ministry to see how we can resolve those issues.
Honorable member, who is responsible for providing money to run the ministry? Who is responsible for providing money to run the ministry?
It's the finance minister.
There is a national debt within your ministry, is that right?
All right. Thank you.
Chairman, so still there, give us an assurance that you get the Minister of Finance to retire the debt, because those hotels, Kempinski, they are businesses.
Yeah.
So if you owe them, it affects not just their profitability, they may even declare workers redundant when they don't have to pay. So the Honorable Ablakwa, in response to his question, give us an assurance. As for it, this is the copy. I just looked at it. I've confirmed the numbers. You don't want to be mentioning corporate names. It doesn't also help some of them, their reputation. It even includes outstanding bonuses for the national football teams. So give us an assurance that you follow up with the Ministry of Finance to retire this debt and work in a manner that you don't accumulate further debt for the ministry if you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, if given the opportunity, I'll take proactive steps to engage the finance minister, especially when it is in the handover notes. It becomes very hard for me to make my case. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, finally, I will touch on a reputational issue which borders on potential abuse of office. I have a TV3 news video that, Mr. Chairman, I'll seek your kind indulgence to have it played. And if the nominee can kindly pay attention to the screen.
The sound is here.
Has accused the ruling New Patriotic Party of busing people outside the Yagakubori constituency in the Mampugu district to register The NDC further accused the National Service Board of abuse of office by allocating National Service buses to convey the non-residents to the area register.
The progression of the voter registration exercise nationwide has been fraught with complaints, accusations, and counter-accusations from both sides of the political divide of people being bussed to the various centers. As the news team went around monitoring the registration, these 3 national service buses were spotted along the Jadema-Kunkwa Road, stuck in a muddy portion of the road for hours. The NDC allegedly chanced on the incident as their vehicle got stuck in this mud, and this ensued. These allegations have been heightened, especially in parts of the northeast region, where the NDC claims the governing party, the MPP, is abusing its office to their detriment. They allege the National Service Board is also abusing its office by allocating official vehicles to convey people to the registration centers under circumstances that will not convince them not to vote independently.
We find
it very difficult to use this road anytime it rains. We were happy when Honorable Mustapha organized us to take us to go and register.
So
the roads have always been bad, and it will get us in this for us to go and register.
Moments into Yagaba Township, we spotted 2 other national service buses believed to have brought people to the area to register. Residents in the constituency have expressed worry on how state vehicles are allowed to transport people to register. We reached out to the National Service Boss, Mustapha Yusif.
Yes, you may ask your question.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. So that's a TV3 News report during the registration. You are accused as National Service Boss. As we saw, the passengers all mentioned your name, that you organized them. You see National Service buses, using National Service buses for partisan activity. How do you respond to that abuse of office?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the national services were procured during Vincent Kwanvemu's regime, and it was for the purposes of getting our national service personnel, because we are doing our farm activities, to engage, to be able to get them to the farms, to be able to learn practically the processes that are done on the farm. But when the national service expose came, and most of the district officers were implicated, and a new executive director was appointed, the national service, the buses were not being used. So when I assumed office, there were a lot of maintenance charges coming to me as executive director. So I made a proposal to the board, and the board gave approval that we should commercialize the buses, so that instead of we using the meager IGF to be paying for the maintenance, we'll be able to raise money. Because the buses are in the region, they are in the 10 regions. He bought 10 of them for the 10 regions. So I'm not aware, I wasn't personally involved in busing the people, but an association in our career met the transport heads at the National Service Secretariat to rent, because they also know they rent the buses, and they rented the buses to transport themselves to go and register. And when I got to realize it, I immediately asked them to stop. I don't want to be seen of abusing my office. So I rather imported them to even get different buses to
Honorable Member, why did you stop it? Why? Whether you hide this or hide that, your name will be associated. This country, if it was hide for a funeral, nobody will complain. Of registration, For those who were going, were they showing party cards before they board the bus? Honorable, I'm asking you, for those who were boarding the bus, were they showing party cards?
Not at all.
So did you find out if there was payment? Was payment made? Do you have the receipts? Do you have evidence for this committee? The association that you said met your transport department without your notice. Do you know if they made payment, if there's evidence to that effect, if there's some receipt we can see?
Yes, normally when they rent these buses, because I said it's not managed at the head office. As you know, National Service regional offices, and we have 10 regional offices. And they rent them. The payments are made to the regional office. They rented just about 4 of the buses. When I got to know it, I stopped it.
Mr. Chairman, that will be it. I'm grateful.
Chair, I have a follow-up.
Yes,
yes. Honorable nominee, the accusation per the news report is that you were buzzing people. From your explanation, you never did so, correctly?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as I wasn't involved in the buzzing of the people.
That's fine.
Yes, I was coming to leadership, but leader says I should give Gisela one. Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Honorable nominee, I'd like to ask you a question about human capital development, human capital welfare and care. Without sportsmen and women, there will be no sports. Without sportsmen and women, there will be no sports. And they also have a shorter lifespan in the sense that of their effective sporting life. By 40, somebody cannot necessarily be such an ace footballer and so on and so forth. What plans will you have for that category of people generally, between their welfare, scholarships, investments? How would they be cared for? Because sometimes after they've ended their effective sporting life, they have issues of care and welfare and so on and so forth, and they are a bit on the low side. What will you do? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, when given the opportunity, we'll get a pension scheme for our national team members so that once they retire from their career as sportsmen and women, they will have something to live on. So it's something that I will engage the Federation so that we need to establish a pension scheme for them, so that whatever bonuses that we are giving them, something is deducted into the pension scheme, so that life after their career, they will be able to have something to live on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Honorable Nominee, and congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you so much.
I have a short message to read for you. With your indulgence, Mr. Chairman, I'll read a message sent from his alma mater, which happens to be in my constituency. So I get sent as a messenger. Now the message says, "Good morning, Hajia, our Honorable MP. This is Alhaji Ibrahim, Assistant Headmaster for Salga Senior High School. Hajia, the old students, current students, and staff of Salga Senior High School have asked me to put their request before you to be done during your vetting of Minister of Youth and Sports Designate, who happens to be an old student of the school. Their request is that they want you to congratulate him on their behalf. That had it not been that we are in COVID-19 era, they would have been here in their numbers to support him. They say congratulations and they look up to him as a role model. Salam alaikum." Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We are done.
Yes, Honorable Ajay.
We are done.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that note, may I take honorable nominee from Salaga to the People's Manifesto. I take you to the NDC's People's Manifesto. In the manifesto, the NDC plan to give every district a sports recreational facility. No, this one. We'll also want to look at that and help the communities have small recreational facilities.
Thank you so much. Yes, Mr. Chairman, when given the opportunity, I'll look into it.
Yes, Honorable Muta, this question, you should be answering that. I asked you this question in 2009, that you promised us one district, one stadium. Where's my stadium? No. Yes, you put it there. All right, you may. A leadership. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, you see the way they are harassing me. It's my grandfather who is from Kumungu, so I'm from Asmasi. The nominee is a brother. He lived in London with my direct brother. Anytime I go, we meet and they assist me to do a number of things. But this is not family business. This is public business. So we have to do and earn our salary. The chairman, in an answer earlier, he said he was going to work hard to increase the IGF of the, that's internally generated fund from the ministry to enable him to do a number of things. How does he hope to do this?
Mr. Chairman, I didn't say the ministry, I said the National Sports Authority. The National Sports Authority at 934 manages the facilities, the sports facilities of the country. So given the opportunity, innovative ways of improving on their IGF. So that once those IGFs are improved, they'll be able to maintain those facilities. So that was my response to the question.
Yeah, so I'm just asking, I mean, you are going to be the supervising ministry. So you are going to be the supervising minister who oversight the sports authority that has these facilities. How do you hope to improve the idea? I know you've been briefed. From your brief, you might have started conceiving an idea of how you could assist them to increase their idea. That's what I want to hear. You have an idea how you intend to do that?
Yes. The sports facilities can be used for other activities. For example, the Tamale Sports Stadium is used for other recreational activities like wedding and even funerals, and they pay monies for the utilization. So, given the opportunity, we'll ensure. But when I was responding to the question, it was in regards to the teams paying realistic fees for the usage, because the Premier League teams or the first division and second division, they use those facilities. And there is a problem about payment of what is due the National Sports Authority. So I will engage all the stakeholders as one of the avenues so that whatever they are paying now, at least we can see how we can adjust it so that they'll be able to get revenues to maintain those facilities. Because then, when you have those facilities there and they are not being maintained and they deteriorate, those teams will get the facilities again.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, so are you going to be considering percentage or a kind of sharing formula from the revenue that they generate away from maybe the current flat fee as a way of, if you have a very good match, then that means you may get some chunk of the money? Or you are just thinking that you should just increase the fee that they pay for playing matches there?
Mr. Chairman, I don't want to give emphatic position because I'm a believer of engagement. So I want to engage stakeholders and see what they are able to pay. Because currently I don't know what their capacity, especially in this current condition, we don't have spectators even going into our sports stadium to watch sports activities. But once things normalize and they are able to get people to go to those facilities, what would be required per the engagement, what I'll put forward is to see how best we can have some percentage of whatever they get from the gate fees.
Mr. Chairman, when he was talking about the maintenance, okay, even before that, you know, they have a lot of shops and stores, and in some instances, I think in the Tamale sports and the Cape Coast, there are some facilities for even hotel accommodation inbuilt within them. We look at the charges, whether they are realistic, because I know some of the shops in Kumasi Sports Stadium, that's Baba Yara. If you look at the charges, that the amount of money they pay as either rent, as compared to the locality, if you just step out across the street and ask of a shop how much they are paying, you will see that they are partly contributing to the duration because they are what they are paying cannot just maintain the facility. Will it also be an area that you will look at to see how you can improve the revenues for the National Sports Authority now?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, yes, it will be one of the areas that I will look into it to see how much they are paying, so that if there are the gap between the rate at which those who have rented our sports facilities, the shops, there is the gap between them and the private ones is very wide. We will look into it to see that they pay realistic rates.
Mr. Chairman, he also talked about the maintenance manual where he has worked. Yes, I agree, because that's the only way. It becomes like a checklist. That's the only way you can follow through to make sure that every aspect of the facility is properly maintained. But you know that the problem is not just the checklist. Because even if you take that, oh, you are supposed to maintain the tap next month, and you don't have money to do that, obviously it will escape. Will you consider a facility manager as a way of PPP in trying to ensure that facilities are properly maintained? Because as you may know, GOG is not a reliable source that you can depend on to do any meaningful thing in terms of this maintenance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm a believer of getting those facilities being, like I mentioned, in UK, Leicester Hospital belongs to the NHS. G4 was a facility manager, and they were managing. If the inspectorate board comes to see that G4S is not doing the right thing, it goes against them in terms of how much they are going to pay them. So I'm a believer of getting private management. But the reality is that our teams are also worried whether they will be able to, if a private person is managing those facilities, because it will come at a cost to the teams. And most of them are now even developing. So given the opportunity, I would rather engage them and put all the options on the table so that we'll see which one is the best option for both us and the stakeholders, especially the team.
Yes, so I just want to find out in his briefing whether Bolaga Sports Stadium and Azuma Nelson Sports Complex issues were raised with you during your briefing. Bolaga Sports Stadium.
Mr. Chairman, no.
And then what about the Azuma Nelson Sports Complex at Keneshi?
Mr. Chairman, no, I don't.
With the Azuma Nelson Sports Complex, the President said they were, when he came in 2017, that this complex was going to be rehabilitated to a certain standard so that it can be used 4 years down the line. Nothing much is there. Same with Boga Sports Stadium. Is it an area that you pay attention to when you get to office so that you see what you can do to improve the facilities there?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, all sports facilities will be paid attention to, and now, particularly now that you have mentioned the two sports facilities, the Boga one and also the Azuma Nelson one, I'll look into it. I'll do a follow-up to it and pay more attention to it and ensure that what the President said is done.
And also, you know, the Ministry of Zongo Development then had dotted a number of ASOTEP across the country that are not completed. There's one in Aswanse, precisely like Krim, where you are very familiar with. I mean, for 3 years, it's not been completed. I hope you pay attention to get these ones complete because that will help sports development at the local level.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I can assure the honorable member that given the opportunity, those facilities all will be completed.
Let me take you to one area that, as a country, will find it very difficult to deal with. That's airlifting of supporters to watch our matches. I mean, after the Brazil saga, there was a, what do you call it, there was a committee that worked on and advised that we should henceforth cease to be airlifting supporters. Subsequent to that, I mean, supporters by your predecessor were sent to Egypt, Australia. That has led to all this scandal. What assurance are you giving to this House about this recommendation by the Commission that we should stop airlifting supporters toward this and allow and facilitate and allow individuals who want to go and watch match to pay and go and watch rather than the state carrying this unnecessary burden?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, like the honorable member rightly said, the issue has to do with using the taxpayers' money to carry supporters to support our national team. But he should also understand that everywhere in the world, when national teams are being representing their countries, they carry spectators and supporters to go and cheer up the team so that the team can be able to perform and be motivated. So we'll look at other avenues like sponsorship, where we get corporate Ghana. And in this regard, I will also engage the media to support, to rebrand the sector so that the corporate Ghana will be willing, because they want to be associated with good news, so that they will be able to sponsor supporters to go and cheer up our national teams, so that they will be motivated to deliver and get trophies.
Chairman, when he was answering a question earlier about the Australian investigation, you know that the police have not released the report on the Australian investigation. Is this something that you will consider making it public or getting the police to release their investigation?
We have answered those questions already. He has assured us he will tell them they are public investigations.
Mr. Chairman, what he answered was not in relation to the police releasing the report. He said he will see to the report and its content. I thought that's what I heard.
I thought they are the same thing, the same report.
No, because the report itself has not even been released.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I will engage the Ministry of Interior to see to it whether the investigation is even conclusive. So if conclusive, it's a matter of public interest. We'll make sure that we make it public.
Well, Mr. Chairman, let me take him where he's just living, National Service, with its associated problems. It was shocking when you rated 10 pickouts to Ghana Education Service. Why? I thought Ghana Education Service was richer than your outfit. Why were you donating 10 pickups to Ghana Education Service? Yes, the National Service Secretariat, you donated 10 pickups to the Ghana Education Service. What necessitated that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the idea was to collaborate with the Ghana Education Service to do school farms. So in order to support them to monitor, because they were the implementers of the school farms, so we supported, and we got approval from Ministry of Finance, my board, to support them so that they will be able to monitor the school farms, so that they will be able to produce food to support the free SHS policy, because that was the concept, and that's why we support Ghana Education Service.
I thought that if they needed support in that area, it was the Ministry of Agri, Ministry of Food and Agriculture that was supposed to do that. How is the school farm related to you as National Service Secretary?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. You know that apart from our mandate of deploying national service, I said earlier, we also have programs. The Act 426 gives the board mandate to be able to introduce new programs. And we do agric as one of the model in advanced service. So we support, if you remember, we even gave more than 5,000 bags maize to support through buffer stock, support the school funds, the free SHS policy. So this was another initiative. We want to make sure that our brothers and sisters in the secondary school also get opportunity to have practical experience at the school, so that in doing so, we'll be able to now produce also to complement government effort to do that.
Mr. Chairman, why was it necessary to deduct 15 cedis from National Service Secretariat to finance National Service Week?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the National Service have an association called NASPA, and this association has existed long time, since 1973 that National Service was established, and even when the Act was passed, the association is there to see their welfare. So normally when they have week celebration, just like the NUCS, SRC, they levy the National Service. They will go to Congress and pass a resolution. So executive director, you'll be there and they'll bring the resolution and said they want to do their week celebration. So they want 15 Ghana cedis, 10 Ghana, depending upon what they agree at their Congress. Then for us, I always implement, because I'm the patron of the, sometimes we even advise, but the purpose of the deduction is based on the National Service personnel.
And you supervise the expenditure when you do the deduction, is that what you say? Or when you deduct, you give it to them?
Once they have their own account, as a patron, I advise them about it. But they have the association, they have district level executives, they have regional level executives, and they have national level executives. So whatever we give them, they will go. They have a formula about how they disperse those money, and those formulas will normally at Congress, and they'll bring the resolutions. Then once we give it to them, they then do the disbursement to their membership, so that they can celebrate it wide.
Chairman, Nanabi was your deputy.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
He left to contest the National Youth Organizer position.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
After he won, is he still occupying bungalow as when he was the deputy, when he was your deputy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. After he won, we wrote officially to him that now that he's not part of the government, he should leave the accommodation for the new person appointed to cover. So that's what I did.
And did he leave, or is still occupying the bungalow?
As we speak, I have to cross-check, because after my inauguration, I have not gone back there to check, so I have to check whether. Yeah.
He became the National Youth Organizer some years back.
Yes, he has. Once we wrote the letter to him, I believe he has left because the new person was to take over the facility.
Are you sure the new, who took over from him?
Kweku Ohini Jan.
Are you sure Mr. Jan is living in an official bungalow?
We have that bungalow to him.
And you are not paying any rent to him?
No, we are not paying any rent.
It's certain that he has occupied, Nanabi has vacated for Mr. Jan to occupy the bungalow?
Yes, once we have allocated to him, I'm very certain that he has.
Are you certain, or you assume that he has occupied the bungalow?
I assume, because we have written to him, we have given him allocation that he should take over. Because I decided, because that particular residence was for the executive director, but I decided that I want to live in my own house. That's why it was given to my deputy. So once he came, he said he should take over. So I assume that he's currently there.
Are you also the present representative there at the National Service Secretariat?
No, Mr. Chairman.
It's only at the ministerial level?
Yes.
So have you since left that office?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
And you packed your things out?
I've packed my things.
Mr. Chairman, you need to caution Honorable Osler. It's not for her to be screaming at people. It is not for you to be screaming at people. Yes.
Honorable Chairman, I heard a scream. I haven't heard any scream. Please continue with your question.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to find out from the nominee whether he said that what he wanted was to be the one that has organized, to have organized the best African Games, right?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
You know that the para discipline, in the briefing that you received, is it integrated in the program for the African All Games?
The briefing I got that when we put in the bid to host the African Games, the para bid wasn't part, but the organizers, the AU, is asking that whether we can integrate it so that it be part of the games. But given the opportunity, I will engage the stakeholders and also cabinet, because these decisions, I cannot take those decisions, even as a minister. So once the opportunity is given to me, cabinet will take a decision on that, as whether we are going to host the para games alongside the African Games.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Honorable Deputy Leader.
Chair, I have no questions for him, except to
grant regulation.
Chairman, thank you very much. Let me congratulate the Honorable Mustapha Yusif. And as the Blackwell advised him, to endeavor, if you do become minister, to endeavor not to neglect youth development, particularly inculcating the values of patriotism in young people, and they upholding strongly our values as a country. Now, there's no standard indoor gym in Ghana which can be used year-round basketball, boxing, or other hand games. Can you make a promise to the youth of Ghana that you will work on such a facility, an indoor gym for Ghana, if it's one, for indoor games? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Luckily for us, we have opportunity of hosting the African Games, and we have an opportunity of building an Olympic village that will have all these facilities. So I can give that assurance that once given the opportunity, yes, we'll build those facilities for the youth of this country.
Chairman, when the nominee was talking about support for clubs. He mentioned that some 50,000 have been given to premier clubs. That will only work up on average monthly salaries for the clubs. Camping costs for 4 matches and even 2 long distance traveling will consume that amount. I'm encouraging you to explore opportunities of corporate social responsibility to finance it. Now, Division 1, the level below Premier, did you give them any support and how much?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I know per the arrangement, the Division 1 also supposed to receive some support. I don't know how much has been given, but I know that for the Premiership, the figure I give. But given the opportunity, I'll look into it. If it's not given, I will follow it through to ensure that Division 1 teams also get what we promised them.
The National Youth Authority, from the records available to me, probably have offices in 81 districts. Is that the case?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Will you expand it to the other districts of Ghana and how?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, even as we speak, we've started operationalizing all the district offices across the country using NAPCO officials. So even though we have 81, as the Honorable Member said, practically, I have been a member of the board of the National Youth Authority, and I'm aware and know that NAPCO have deployed officials to see to the interests of the youth and engage on behalf of the authority. So given the opportunity, we'll write to finance to get financial clearance to be able to appoint officers and also engage Ministry of Local Government to get offices for the authority. Because per the law, we need to have youth committees, and also the youth groups should be registered. So if we have no offices, then it makes it very difficult for the youth associations to have opportunity to register. So I will follow it vigorously to ensure that in all the districts across the country we have operational offices.
Chairman, may I find out from the nominee, pursuant to the National Youth Authority Act 939 of 2016, you have any plans of a legislative instrument to nationalize its operation, and when do you intend to put this before Parliament? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Chairman, I'm aware my predecessors have already started work on the operationalization of the legislation. So once given the opportunity, I'll follow it up to ensure that the legislation comes to this House to be approved so that we'll be able to operationalize the law as we have passed.
Chairman, thank you. May I request from the nominee, youth empowerment and development is important because of employability, and for us to equip them with the needed skills for their contribution to our national development effort. The youth training centers, youth leadership training centers in Afia, Takrasi, Asankare, Sandima, Isa, Afransi, Ebru, and Nalergu, I hope I pronounce it well. Largely, they have problems with feeding grants, how early they get it. And the young students, male and female, struggle. What will you do to improve the feeding of these institutions?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the development of our youth is very, very critical. And given the opportunity, especially the challenge the Honourable Member just mentioned, I'll follow it through to ensure that their feeding grants don't delay.
The Chairman, for instance, the Afenia Youth Leadership Training School, the catering department and plumbing department, I recall visiting it then. It's still in the same state. What plans do you have for it? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I mentioned earlier that the building of these youth leadership centers have started by my predecessor. Not all of them were captured. So given the opportunity, I will continue to ensure that the rest are all renovated, so improved the standard and equipped so that the youth of this country will have opportunity to develop their skills.
Chairman, this home match for the nominee. I was in Nalergu this weekend on Sunday, briefly. Construction of 300 seating capacity multipurpose hall. What's the status of it? You are from that area. Has it been completed? Will you get it completed? Serve the youth in that area?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the resource centers that currently is ongoing are in various stages of completion. And given the opportunity, I will follow through to ensure that all these facilities are completed. So the youth of this country will have to utilize those facilities.
The Nzima Mamle Youth Leadership and Skills Training Institute, what plans do you have for them?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like I responded in my earlier answer, I will ensure that I will go through to ensure that the issues that they have is resolved.
Chairman, may I find out from the Minister for Youth and Sports nominee, the water systems in Uhuyedin and Takrasi Youth Leadership Training Centers is in very bad state. You can imagine if you wake up and don't know how to get a good bath, you probably will not know how to get good drinking water. Starting the day will just be as miserable as is not promising. What will you do about that? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, and also thank you, Honourable Member, for drawing my attention. And where I'm coming from, National Service, I know we have a rig. So if given the opportunity, I'll liaise with National Service, see immediately what we can do for them, getting them a borehole, mechanized borehole, and also if we are the current status too, we can make sure that we improve on it. But that's what I'll do as a point given the opportunity.
Chairman, may I find out from the nominee whether he wants to initiate some work to get dedicated stadium for work in the Upper West region and Bolga in the Upper East region to facilitate training. I have maintained that training is the only activity for which there is no medicinal substitute. You don't need to take a vitamin to get what trains you. Can you make a pledge to this committee for WA and Bolga and I'll add who in the Volta region? What plans do you have?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm aware who, for instance, we've started a youth resource center and it comes with a standard football pitch, 8 lane, an ICT lab, and also a business center. So most of the agents' work have already started. And while as well, I'm aware there is also a youth resource center currently ongoing. In Upper East, it's not in Boga, but it's in Nafrungu. So there's also a youth resource center which comes with a FIFA standard pitch and also 8-lane track, an ICT lab, a business center, a volleyball and basketball court. So given the opportunity, I'll see to its completion so that for those regions to have those facilities.
Chairman, I see that natural grass does not do well for the purpose of continuous training. And because of the seasonal nature of our country, I've seen a number of AstroTurf fields. What plans do you have to expand it?
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, as you speak, the Minister of Zongo Development has constructed 15 AstroTurfs. 5 of them have been completed. And given the opportunity, GMPC Foundation is also doing some. Given the opportunity, I will liaise with other agencies and also corporate Ghana to see to it that if we have to revive the inter-school and inter-community sports festivals, then we will need facilities to do so. So,
Chairman, I note that the AstroTurf fields are largely being built in a discriminatory manner. I've seen them in more MPP political constituencies than NDC constituencies. There's none in Bekwai, so fair to it, a stronghold of the MPP. But I cannot count any MP from this side who is benefiting from an AstroTurf. You are always in Tamale. I know your in-laws' house, just by it. Kulukulu School, popular Kulukulu School, just by your in-laws' house. The youth there gather every day, the last decade or more. Young Dawara in Lamashegu, just by the youth palace, the youth are there. And I'm saying that I'm not happy about the discriminatory implementation of those terms. Can you assure us that you will be fair to all members of parliament and to all constituencies, because exercise is necessary for every person in the respected 275 constituencies? Will you stop the discriminatory allocation of it? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I can assure this August House that given the opportunity, we will not be doing discriminatory. And like I said in my earlier answer, if resources are available, we want AstroTurf for every constituency, so that the exercise, the vision of getting into school festivals and into community festivals will be realized. Because if there are facilities, it will be difficult for them to do so. So
you are encouraged, if you do become minister, to end the discrimination. As you drive to Wale Wale, I've seen a new development on my right. The people of Diare and Savulugu, where you drive past every day, they have problems with water. That is not your mandate. Savulugu, I'm not seeing any development of this activity. Gushegu, I'm not seeing it, unless you want to assure me that that's been done. So kindly consider that. But come back to your CV. Leadership positions held. Ghana's delegation to MIT program as Massachusetts. You put in 2017 to 2019. You want to suggest that for 2 years you were busy there while still functioning in public service? Page 4 of your CV. Page 4 of your CV.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. The program was 2 years program, customized for Ghana, and I participated. And it was 5 workshops in between the 2 years. So you go there 5 days and come back and go back. It was 5 workshops in between, and also online. We get resources online as well.
Chairman, I'm just concluding. I'm holding here some termination letters signed by the minister you have succeeded, Honorable Isaac Kwame Esiama. This one was addressed to Mr. Bright Achampo, Acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer, National Youth Authority, Mr. Richard Eba Obing, Acting Deputy Chief Executive Officer, National Youth Authority, and then Mr. Emmanuel Asigri. There was some investigation. You want to share the details with us in the public interest, if you do get to the ministry, on the investigations to what led to their dismissals? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Yes, if I get the report of the investigation, I will share.
Chairman, I should note that the nominee, Honorable Mustapha, comes to me as very affable and self-respecting person, as I have encountered him as we travel in and out. I'm still investigating the circumstances, how my friend Honorable Tanko lost to him. And all of us will have to look at it. There was some shooting in the constituency, but like I said, I don't have my full facts to interrogate him on it. But I want to wish him well, Chairman. Thank you.
We have Northeast MPs. They are here in their numbers.
Sorry? He was here. No man. He said you should acknowledge MPs.
Some of
colleague MPs.
Honorable Mustapha, I have no question for you. I congratulate you. We thank you for sending upon the committee to answer our questions. You will hear first, but for now, you are discharged.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.